taking the best ass whooping? Chris.
Imagine it's 1982. A 13-year-old kid named Chris Rock wakes up already late for school. His day hasn't even started and he's already behind. His father gives him a piece of tough love wisdom: make your own luck. And with that, Chris heads out the door into a world that feels like it's always 2 steps ahead of him, and not in a good way. The girl he has a crush on barely notices him, and by the time the school bell rings, he's already been jumped by bullies. It's the kind of day that would break most people, but Chris, he gets up every time. This isn't a fairy tale, this is Everybody Hates Chris, and this is the pilot episode that introduces us to a world where the odds are rarely in his favor. From the very start, the show makes one thing painfully clear: Chris's life isn't just difficult, it's unfair, but he doesn't let that define him. There's something deeply relatable in that, because we've all had those days, haven't we? The ones where everything goes wrong, where nothing feels built for you, where even the smallest win feels impossible, and yet somehow we're still standing.
Yo, back of the bus, lady.
So how does he do it? What keeps him moving forward when the world keeps pushing him back? To understand that, we have to take a closer look, not just at his bad luck, but at his heart, his humor, and his quiet resilience. Because, as you'll soon see, Chris's secret weapon isn't strength or popularity, it's something much more powerful: the ability to laugh in the face of adversity, to find dignity in struggle, and to keep going even when it feels like the whole world is rooting against him. And before lunchtime, he's already caught in a fight he never asked for. It's one of the show's first truths. Chris's life isn't just hard, it's rigged from the start.
So are you guys close?
Yeah.
Chris, why don't you stand up and tell the rest of the class what you're discussing with Gregory?
My grandfather died.
Chris, that's not funny. What are you gonna do when your grandfather dies for real? Just because you didn't study for a test doesn't mean you can go killing off your family. Who's next? Your father? Your mother? Why don't you kill your sister or your brother?
He's telling the truth.
Oh. Oh, Chris.
Wait. You believe him
Of course.
and not me?
Well, Chris, your grandfather died. You might say anything.
And sell 30 boxes of cookies to cover the cost of the trip. Chris, if your people can't afford to pay cash, I'll see if they'll accept food stamps. Inga, binga, binga, bunga. Chris, what tribe are you from?
And it doesn't get easier. Each episode paints a new picture of Chris as a quiet, determined underdog. He's the only black kid at Corleone Junior High, dropped into a mostly white school where difference isn't embraced, it's exploited. One writer put it simply: Chris had to deal with kids staring at him because he was the only black student, and even the white kids were afraid of him. Not because of anything he did, but because of what they thought he was. That isolation weighs on him. Not just in the hallways where bullies like Joey Caruso lurk, but in the classroom too, where clueless teachers treat him differently, often unfairly because of the color of his skin. The racism is rarely loud, it's subtle, passive, institutional, but it's there, woven into every space Chris walks into. Every day, Chris wakes up and steps into a world that feels stacked against him, a world where he's asked to be better, faster, and smarter just to be seen as equal. And still, he tries, he studies hard, he helps at home, he does his best to be the good kid, but life doesn't reward him in the ways it should. When he slips up, when he lies, cheats, or tries to cut corners, karma doesn't wait long. He gets caught, punished, embarrassed. These moments, while funny on screen, carry a heavier truth. Shortcuts don't work for kids like Chris. The system is too tight, the rope is too short, and yet he keeps going. There's something quietly heroic about that. Chris isn't a fighter in the traditional sense. He's not beating up bullies or starting revolutions. He's surviving, pushing forward, holding on to dignity in the face of daily rejection. One blogger wrote that Chris is unfairly treated, stereotyped, and bullied due to the color of his skin, and yet he never lets that injustice harden him. Instead, he meets the world with grit, humor, a sense of self that's still forming, but somehow strong enough to endure. So what keeps him going? What fuels a kid who's stuck between invisibility and suspicion, between being ignored and being feared? What gives him the strength to try again every day when the odds are so clearly stacked against him? The answer doesn't come from power or privilege. It comes from something far more unexpected, and in the next part of this story, we'll uncover exactly what that is. His childhood, as told by the show, could have easily been a tragedy, but instead it's laced with something more surprising: humor, and not just the kind written into the script, but humor that Chris himself crafts as a way to survive. Because when life keeps knocking you down, you either break or you laugh, and Chris chooses laughter. The voice guiding us through his childhood is that of adult Chris Rock, wry, witty, and filled with hard-earned perspective. His narration turns everyday misfortune into punchlines, not because the pain isn't real, but because he's learned how to disarm it with wit. Take the moment he talks about basketball and race. At that moment, I discovered one of life's greatest secrets: black guy plus basketball equals white girl. It's a joke, sure, but it's also a reflection of how a young black kid learns to read a world that constantly labels him before he even speaks. His humor is sharp but never cruel. It's the kind that feels like a teenager leaning over to whisper a secret just to you, a joke wrapped around a truth. And that humor becomes his armor. Every time he's hungry, humiliated, or homesick, Chris cracks a joke not to dismiss the pain, but to own it. He laughs at himself as much as he laughs at others, even when he lies or cheats, faking test scores, sneaking around, or scheming to avoid embarrassment. Those moments are played not just for laughs, but for lessons. The joke always comes with a consequence, and Chris learns from both. Adult Chris tells the story of his childhood with a gentle irony, never mocking young Chris, but always honest about the absurdity of his experiences. He recalls being bullied at a school in crime-ridden 1980s Brooklyn, or wearing a janitor's uniform so dirty he thought he looked like a ninja. And just when we're caught off guard by a laugh, he delivers something more tender, like his reflection on his father. "My father wasn't the type to say 'I love you.' I was one of 4 fathers on the block. 'I'll see you in the morning' meant he was coming home. Coming home was his way of saying 'I love you.'" That line hits different, because even in a show built around comedy, moments like that pull you closer. They remind you that what we're watching isn't just a sitcom, it's a survival story told with love. Chris never feels sorry for himself. He doesn't ask for pity. He doesn't carry bitterness. What he carries is a kind of creative resilience, a deep understanding that if you can find the funny in your pain, then maybe, just maybe, you can keep going. The audience isn't just laughing at Chris, they're laughing with him because they see what he's doing, turning struggle into storytelling, hardship into punchlines. The brilliance of Everybody Hates Chris isn't just that it's funny, it's that it's honest. It captures the lived experience of growing up black in America, with all its humor, heartbreak, and in-betweens, and that honesty is what makes it stick. But laughter alone doesn't raise a kid. Behind Chris's sharp wit and quiet strength is something more grounded: home. Because the one place that holds him up no matter how hard life gets is the family he comes back to, and that's where we turn next.
Yo, back of the bus, lady.
But I have a lot of big stuff going on in school tomorrow. I need those socks.
Chris, you need to make your own luck in this world. Success comes from opportunity and preparation.
And being white.
Do you think it was luck when Rocky beat Mr. T? Do you think the Ghostbusters were lucky when they saved New York from the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man? Do you think Godzilla was lucky when he beat Ghidorah, the 3-headed monster?
I don't know. I guess not.
That's right. Chris, the only thing lucky about those socks is that I couldn't find the matching pants. Now go find your own luck. You don't need those socks.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Talking to my father always made me feel better. And maybe he was right. Maybe it wasn't the socks after all. Wrong.
Chris Rock's younger self is famously unlucky, but that unlucky kid, awkward, tired, always dodging trouble, wasn't navigating the world alone. At the heart of Everybody Hates Chris is a family that holds him up when the world tries to tear him down, and at the center of that family are his parents, Julius and Rochelle, tough, loud, loving, imperfect, and absolutely essential. Julius, played with quiet brilliance by Terry Crews, is a man who never stops moving. He works 2, sometimes 3 jobs, doing whatever it takes to keep the lights on and food on the table. He's the kind of father who counts every dollar and every bite, earning him the nickname Human Calculator. 1 sandwich slice too many? That's wasteful. 1 extra minute in the shower? That's money down the drain. But beneath his thriftiness is something deeper: intentionality. Julius isn't stingy out of greed, he's careful out of love. He knows that every cent he saves buys his family just a little more peace.
What's up, babe?
Knickers? What's the Knickers?
It's the same as a Snicker bar, but it's a lot cheaper. I go to this place, they got everything. Knickers, 2 Musketeers, M&M's.
Julius. Gravy waves?
Same as a Milky Way, but it tastes like gravy. Where you going?
Out.
What's all that?
Real Halloween candy. Bags, everything. I even bought a pumpkin.
It's almost $23 worth of stuff. Rochelle.
Look, Julius, I don't want people all over the neighborhood talking about I'm that woman giving out butter thumbs.
What are we gonna do with all this Halloween candy I bought? That's almost $2 worth of candy in the garbage.
And his love isn't loud. He doesn't say "I love you" in the traditional way, but when Julius comes home at night, exhausted, silent, and still carrying the weight of his day, that's his way of saying it. "I'll see you in the morning" meant everything in a neighborhood where not every father did.
Chris!
What?
Hey, baby.
Rochelle, on the other hand, is impossible to miss. Played by the powerhouse Tashina Arnold, she's fierce, fire-tongued, and never afraid to raise her voice or her standards. She runs her household with an iron will and a sharp tongue. If Chris talks back, she shuts it down. If he wastes food, she'll threaten to shut off the electricity. Her methods are extreme, even comedic, but her heart is always in the right place. One writer called Rochelle emblematic of sassy, no-nonsense matriarchs with a nurturing spirit underneath. And that's exactly who she is. For every time she grounds Chris, there's a moment where she pulls him into a hug when no one else will. She pushes him not just because she wants him to behave, but because she believes in him. "Try harder," she says. "Don't go to sleep. You're responsible for your own life." It's not always easy love, but it's real, and it's fierce. Together, Julius and Rochelle are a team. They don't have much, but what they do have, they build together. They hold family dinners, buy Chris new socks when he outgrows them, and expect him to be home by dark. Their values are simple: respect, discipline, honesty, and a refusal to give up even when life feels impossible. They aren't perfect parents. They fight. They stress over bills, they lose their tempers, but they show up. And in a world where black families were often portrayed as broken or dysfunctional, their bond was something rare and powerful. They modeled stability, commitment, love that lasted through hard days and long nights. For Chris, that love came with responsibility. As the oldest child, he often had to be the third parent, babysitting his little sister Tanya and younger brother Drew, navigating school while helping out at home. He grew up faster than most kids, he carried more than most kids, and yet in those moments when he wanted to give up, it was the memory of his parents' sacrifices that kept him grounded. It's no coincidence that Chris's toughness, his grit, his ability to laugh through pain, it all traces back to the lessons he absorbed watching Julius hustle and Rochelle hold the household together. They weren't superheroes, they were just 2 people doing the best they could for their kids, and sometimes that's more powerful than anything. But while home gave Chris his foundation, the world beyond those Brooklyn apartment walls was far less forgiving. Because outside that door, in the halls of a mostly white school, Chris was met with a whole different kind of challenge, one that would shape his view of identity, friendship, and what it means to stand out. Chris's family gave him strength, but the world outside was another story. In the next section, we'll explore how being a black kid in a mostly white school changed everything. Chris Rock's younger self is famously unlucky, but some of his deepest challenges didn't come from being broke or bullied, they came from simply being different. When Chris was sent to a mostly white school across town, far from the familiar streets of Bed-Stuy, it wasn't just a new environment, it was a daily reminder that he stood out. He wasn't just the new kid, he was often the only black kid in the entire building, and that meant walking into rooms where people didn't know how to treat him, or worse, thought they already did. Sometimes the stares were silent, other times they came with assumptions, whispered jokes, or outright prejudice. As one critic observed, Chris had to deal with kids staring at him in school because he was the only black student. Some were simply curious, others were afraid, and that fear, misinformed and unspoken, led to racism that didn't always come from hatred, but from ignorance, which in some ways is even harder to fight. Chris was no stranger to racial slurs, offhanded stereotypes, or well-meaning adults who couldn't see past their own biases. In one scene, a teacher cheerfully tells him he's perfect for detention because how else will he learn to handle a traffic stop? It's a moment that would break most kids, but Chris delivers it to the audience with a deadpan shrug. That's how he copes, with humor, not because it's funny, but because it's necessary. But Chris's world wasn't only made of cruelty and misunderstanding. There were moments of connection, real ones. His best friend Greg is a skinny, awkward white kid from a safer, more comfortable background. On the surface, they have little in common, but in the hallways of Corleone Junior High, they find each other. They laugh together, they struggle together. Greg even transfers schools just to stay close to Chris. In a place where Chris is often treated as an outsider, Greg chooses to stand beside him. Their friendship is a reminder that not everything is black and white, literally or figuratively. As one article points out, their bond reflects the reality of how many black children interact with kids of other races and find common ground. Watching them stumble through adolescence is a quiet reminder that Chris's story at its core is about something more universal, the need to belong, the need to be seen. Still, race was never far away. Chris learns, sometimes painfully, that not everyone will treat him like Greg does. His parents know this too. In one episode, Chris lies to a police officer and narrowly avoids being thrown in jail. Rochelle, panicked, gives him a chilling piece of advice. Never trust anyone with a gun unless you're sure they're on your side. It's a moment that feels all too real and all too familiar for many black parents who have to teach their children to be cautious before they're ever allowed to be carefree. And then there's the episode where Chris unknowingly provokes a Ku Klux Klan member at school. What he thought was just another joke suddenly becomes something much more dangerous. It's played for laughs on the surface, but the fear in Rochelle's eyes when she finds out is no punchline. These moments cut deep. They teach Chris that the world isn't always safe for kids who look like him, and sometimes even laughter can't soften that truth. Yet through it all, Chris never loses his sense of self. Every time someone tries to reduce him to just the black kid, he finds a way to rise above it, with wit, with kindness, with quiet strength. He doesn't just endure, he connects. He wins over people, not by pretending to be someone else, but by being exactly who he is. Whether it's a car wash owner who sees his work ethic, or a group of hustlers who respect his hustle, Chris carves out space for himself, one joke, one moment at a time. In the end, Everybody Hates Chris is not just a show about being picked on, it's about being misunderstood and refusing to let that misunderstanding define you. Chris is constantly underestimated, but never undone. His friendships, his character, and his ability to find humor even in hurt make him someone people eventually learn to respect. Maybe not everyone, maybe not right away, but enough. Chris learned tough lessons at school, but he never stopped dreaming. In the next chapter, we'll follow the road his childhood set him on, from studying for a GED under the glow of a kitchen light to the boy who rewrote the rules.
Yo, back of the bus, lady.
Just about everything I ever went through at school was hard. The work was tough.
Q? What's a Q?
The people were mean.
Go ahead. We having a fight or a dance off? You know I can't dance.
But the one thing about school that was harder than anything else
Chris, wake up.
was getting there.
It's time to go to school. You can't learn nothing in bed.
Tell that to Kim Kardashian. While most kids were still sleeping, I had to get my clothes on, wash my face, brush my teeth, eat.
Hey, wait.
And then catch 3 buses. If I got the first one on time, it gave me just enough time to catch the second one, which usually made me right on time to catch the third one. And if nothing went wrong, I'd be on time.
Hey, Chris. Hey. After you.
You're late. Now go to the principal's office and get a tardy slip.
Here. Just for the record, Chris, you can't afford to be late again. The clocks in this school are set to Eastern Standard Time, not CP time.
What difference does it make if I'm late? We took all our tests. We only got like 1 more week to go.
Counting today, you have been late 29 times this year, and 30 is the limit. If you're late again, you will not be promoted. You will have to repeat the 10th grade.
Say what?
Say word.
Oh, there's a word I want to say, all right?
By the time we reach the final season of Everybody Hates Chris, something subtle but powerful has shifted. Chris is no longer just the awkward, unlucky kid trying to survive middle school. He's standing on the edge of adulthood, worn down by the world but not broken. School has been a battlefield. He's been misunderstood by teachers, underestimated by classmates, and dragged down by a system never built with him in mind. He fails 10th grade and eventually he drops out. On paper, that looks like defeat, but in the way Everybody Hates Chris tells it, it's something else. It's a turning point. Because Chris doesn't quit on himself. At home, with a quiet kind of dignity, he opens his GED prep book and starts studying. His siblings might tease him, but he keeps going. We catch glimpses of him scribbling in a notebook, not with algebra problems, but with half-formed jokes, punchlines, stories that only someone who's lived through chaos could write. The adult narration reminds us of what we already know. These moments aren't the end, they're the beginning. Because in real life, Chris Rock did get his GED, and he did become a comedian, and the show gently nods toward that future. In one episode, young Chris meets Doc, a local comic who plants a seed of inspiration. In another, a flyer for a comedy club quietly catches his eye. These are small moments, easy to overlook, but for Chris, they're everything. They are signs that his pain might have a purpose, that the things he suffered through could become stories someone might laugh at one day, not because they weren't painful, but because he learned how to survive them with grace and humor. Even in failure, whether it's bombing a test or losing an audition, Chris grows. He jokes that if lying were an Olympic sport, he'd win gold, but every lie comes with a consequence, and every consequence with a lesson. He learns that shortcuts rarely work out, that honesty takes more courage than cleverness, and that being funny doesn't mean hiding your pain, it means owning it. As a teen, we also see glimpses of the man he's becoming. He runs for class president, mostly as a joke, dances like nobody's watching just to lift the mood, and even helps rescue a baby in the middle of a neighborhood emergency. These moments aren't grand or glamorous, they're real, and they show that Chris isn't just trying to survive anymore. He's learning to lead, to care, to show up even when it's hard. His family and friends remain his first audience. Their laughter, their love, their belief in him even when he stumbles, become the wind beneath his steps. And by the end of the series, we see him take his first leap. He steps into a tiny, dimly lit comedy club. It's not Carnegie Hall, it's not HBO, but it's a start, a spark, a stage.